What could have forced an experienced captain to abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? What could have frightened him so much that he abandoned not only his ship, but also his own wife, his little daughter, and 7 experienced sailors to an unknown fate? How can 10 people simply disappear? No blood, no signs of a struggle, no bodies, no witnesses. If it was a storm, why didn't the ship sink? If it was pirates, why didn't they take the cargo? If the crew was trying to save themselves, what exactly were they escaping from? What could possibly be more terrifying than the safety of a large ship compared to a tiny lifeboat in the middle of the ocean? And most importantly, why more than a century later has no one been able to fully answer these questions? This is not a legend, not a myth, and not fiction. And it happened in such a strange way that many historians still call it one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. But what if the truth has been right in front of us all along? December 5th, 1872, the Atlantic Ocean. Only a few hours remained before sunset. The crew of the British brig Dei Gratia spotted another ship on the horizon. At first, no one paid much attention. But as they got closer, it became clear something wasn't right. The ship wasn't sailing normally. The sails were still catching the wind, yet no one adjusted them. No one stood on deck. No movement, no signal. Captain David Morehouse watched through his spyglass, and he knew one thing. A ship does not behave like this on its own. He ordered his men to approach, and the closer they came, the more unsettling it became. The ship was still afloat. The rigging was tight, the sails intact, yet it felt as if life had vanished from her. When they finally boarded, silence greeted them. No crew. The captain's cabin was empty, the bed neatly made, navigation tools left in place, personal belongings untouched, as if the captain had only stepped away for a moment, but never returned. Below deck, the galley still had food. Water barrels were nearly full. In the cargo hold, over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol remained untouched. If pirates had boarded, why leave everything behind? And then came the strangest detail. No signs of struggle, no blood, no damage. It was as if the crew had simply walked off the ship and vanished. But sailors do not abandon a seaworthy ship without reason. So what could have made them break that rule? Then they noticed something else. The lifeboat was gone. The rope had been cut, meaning only one thing. The crew had left voluntarily, but if they escaped in that small boat, where could they possibly go? The nearest land was hundreds of miles away, almost certain death. So why would an experienced captain choose that? And perhaps the most disturbing question, why take his wife and his little daughter with him? At that moment, the story of Mary Celeste became more than a mystery. It became a real-life investigation. And the deeper you look, the stranger it becomes, because almost every theory falls apart after a single detail. The sailors continued searching the ship, and the longer they looked for answers, the more questions appeared. The ship's logbook was still there, but the last entry ended several days before the ship was found, which meant that after that point, the Mary Celeste drifted to the ocean, completely empty of people, for many hours, perhaps even several days. What happened during that time? Why was no new entry ever made? And why did the captain, who had always kept the log meticulously, suddenly stop writing? Another detail was even stranger. Navigation instruments were found on board, but the most important one, the sextant, was missing, just like the chronometer. Coincidence? Unlikely. Without these tools, the captain could not determine his exact position at sea. So, if he took them with him, it suggests he was not fleeing in panic. He was planning to continue navigation, but no longer on the ship. Why? Did he really believe a small lifeboat was safer than a massive vessel? This is where most people say it must have been pirates. And at first glance it sounds logical. Pirates could have captured the crew, forced them into a boat, and then eliminated all witnesses. But this theory collapses almost immediately. Think about it. Why would pirates leave behind more than 1,700 barrels of valuable alcohol? Why leave money, personal belongings, Navigation equipment. If they had already taken the risk of attacking, why leave almost everything behind? And most importantly, why were there no signs of violence on board? No blood, no bullets, no sword cuts, nothing. The pirate theory seemed convincing until the facts were examined, and that is why most historians quickly dismissed it. But if not pirates, then what? Maybe a storm? This theory also seems plausible. After all, the Atlantic Ocean can be merciless. Howling winds, hurricane winds, zero visibility. Perhaps the captain believed the ship was about to sink and ordered everyone to abandon it. It sounds reasonable. But there is a problem. When the Mary Celeste was found, it did not look like a ship that had just survived a deadly storm. Yes, some sails were damaged. There was water in the hold. But for ships of that era, this was not unusual. It was not sinking. It was not breaking apart. And most importantly, it was still steadily afloat. So why would a captain who knew the sea better than anyone abandon it? That question troubled investigators. And then another theory appeared, much more intriguing, and perhaps much closer to the truth.
Maybe Captain Benjamin Briggs was not fleeing at all. Maybe he believed he would return to the ship within minutes. That idea now forms the basis of the theory many researchers consider the most likely. But to understand it, we must return to the cargo. At first glance, it seemed ordinary. More than 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, a valuable cargo, but extremely dangerous. Alcohol evaporates quickly, and its fumes can accumulate inside the hold. Now imagine being the captain. Days surrounded only by ocean, the ship constantly rocking, wooden barrels knocking against each other, and then you hear a strange sound, like a dull explosion. No fire, no smoke, but loud enough to signal something is happening in the hold. What would you do? Wait until a real explosion happens, or order everyone to abandon ship immediately? That, according to many historians, may have been Captain Briggs' decision. He may have chosen not to take the risk, ordered the crew into the lifeboat, moved a safe distance away, and waited. If nothing happened, they would simply return. This also explains why they took the sextant and chronometer. They were not abandoning the ship forever. They intended to come back. But if that is what happened, why did they never return? This is where the theory begins to fall apart, because the Mary Celeste never exploded. When it was found, the ship was intact, no fire, no major damage. So what exactly had frightened them? Perhaps not the explosion itself, but the possibility that it could happen at any moment. Sometimes fear leads people to make decisions that seem right only in that exact moment, and afterwards they can never be undone. But there is still another problem. Even if the crew left voluntarily, what happened next? Did a small boat simply get lost in the waves? Could a single strong wave have overturned it? Did the rope tying it to the ship snap? Imagine the scene. Ahead, the Mary Celeste drifting. Behind it, a small lifeboat tied with a rope. A sudden gust of wind, a violent tug. The rope stretches to its limit, and then it snaps. Within seconds, the massive ship drifts away. No engine, no way to catch it. The crew cries out, waves their arms, but the wind has already decided their fate. The ship slowly disappears over the horizon, along with their last chance of survival. If that is what happened, their fate was decided in seconds, and nothing could change it anymore. But is there any proof that this is what truly happened? Not really. And that is why the Mary Celeste case remains unsolved, because almost every explanation answers only part of the mystery, while creating new questions. Why were there no clear signs of panic? Why was the final log entry made exactly when it was? Why was neither the lifeboat nor a single crew member ever found again, as if the ocean simply erased them from history?